Welcome back to Pop Dissected. Today, we're going to be discussing what went wrong with Christina Aguilera's 7th studio record, Lotus. Though slated by some to be her comeback, as was the preceding record, Bionic, many felt Lotus failed to deliver and proved Christina had lost her magic from the 2000s. I won't go too in-depth about Bionic, as I already did a video on it and you can watch it here. However, I will give a very brief context to set the stage for Lotus. Now let's dive in and see how, despite seemingly having the perfect plan to start this era, her efforts proved fruitless. But before we begin, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell for more future content on all your favorite pop stars. Bionic was plagued with Christina being compared to Lady Gaga, mainly headed by Perez Hilton. The record, though now seen ahead of its time, was slammed for chasing trends and at times being unlistenable. The era only lasted about 7 months, with its supporting tour never happening and Christina focusing her efforts on the film Burlesque. Christina has innovated her image and sound various times in her career, but Bionic was seen as, well, not innovative. So with her reputation seemingly being tarnished by Perez Hilton, and many potentially seeing her as a copycat trend chaser, it isn't far off to say that many people might have not had a favorable opinion of Christina following Bionic, and going into Lotus. From April 26, 2011 until December 18th of 2012, Christina was a judge on The Voice for 3 consecutive seasons, but would go on to judge in seasons 5, 8, and 10, while being an advisor in season 7. The first 3 seasons all consistently pulled in strong viewership, which in turn means more people were watching Christina. You would think with 3 whole seasons over the course of a year and constantly being televised, this would fare well for her. Well, it seemed so at first, with the release of Maroon 5's Moves Like Jagger, featuring Christina Aguilera. With a variety of performances, you could say this track helped build up what Christina had lost during her Bionic era. The track became her 5th #1 single on the Hot 100, and led her to becoming the 2nd female artist to earn a #1 single in the 1990s, 2000s, and 2010s. Moves Like Jagger released June 21st of 2011 and was promoted extensively throughout the year, though not all performances would feature Christina. Leading up to the release of Lotus, Christina explained how the record would focus on, and here we go, liberation, being vulnerable, expressive, and personal. Now, if you've seen any of my What Went Wrong With videos, comments like that, more often than not, somehow foretell a disappointing outcome. I don't know why, but it's somehow inherently a jinx. She continued on saying she would take her time with the record, and wanted to focus on personal songs that detailed her life from the past several years, and the record was very heartfelt, reflecting many sides of herself. The record's first single, Your Body, released September 16th of 2012, but a demo of the track leaked a month prior. The single debuted and peaked at 34 on the Hot 100, with 103,000 sales, which honestly is an impressive number. The single had limited live performances, yet received a few accolades, but none of them pertaining to mainstream, bigger award shows. The reception was fine, and of course, the reviews weren't without the Bionic comparisons. Some favorably compared Your Body to tracks on Bionic, while others did so negatively. However, the highlights noted were her vocals, while the lyrics and use of synthesizers were not praised. Some noted the track is what one would expect of Christina, a sexy, sensual track, but more on that later. Before we jump into the record's release, let's look at the second and last single, Just a Fool, releasing December 4th of 2012. The track debuted at 92 on the Hot 100, following the release of Lotus, thus prompting RCA to release it as an official single, where it skyrocketed to the peak of 71. The track had a handful of live performances, all being well received. The track itself was also well received. So let's get into the release of Lotus. It released November 9th of 2012, debuting at number 7 on the Billboard 200, was 73,408 units. Compared to Bionic, debuting at 3 with 110,000 copies, this doesn't look good. Lotus gave Christina her lowest opening week sales, that is, until Liberation, though Liberation debuted one chart position higher. The record received mixed reviews. Those providing a negative opinion stated the record had few standouts, bland lyricism, musical direction, and they even criticized her voice. Though the positive reviews stated Christina was taking on new territory, and it was seen as a positive step forward following Bionic. Similar to Bionic, this record would have no tour to support it. Christina stated she was going to be on the road to tour the record, but it never happened. The single Just a Fool would go on to be Christina's last single from her own mainline records to chart on the Hot 100. Though Christina would have a number of collaborations in the following years, but the only one charting would be Feel This Moment with Pitbull, released in 2013. So let's try and break it down. What happened with Christina Aguilera's Lotus? As stated, following the release of Bionic, people may have not really liked Christina after she was plagued with accusations of desperately chasing trends and plagiarism. The voice was crucial for her to be introduced into the public and, I guess, fall into their good graces. Unfortunately, as I further researched, it seems many people simply found Christina unlikable following the Bionic era. Now, I can't find much description beyond she's unlikable, so I can't decipher if this is a case of people just being mean or just letting the word unlikable stand for itself. But is that hard to believe? I would say not, honestly, especially after what she went through during Bionic, which actually was not even her fault. She fell victim to straight up bullying, and it skewed a lot of people's perception of who she was. Bionic very well could have additionally lost her some hardcore fans and casual listeners with the record's direction, and believe it or not, even the hardcore fans do get turned off. With the success of moves like Jagger, I think it would have been much more wise for Christina to drop her lead single after that track had run most of its course. Not during the track's success, as it would be counterintuitive, but in a place where audiences would likely crave more of Christina's vocals and talent. Yet, her lead single released a year and a half later. I think this damaged Christina's traction, as did Your Body leaking a month prior to its release. Additionally, Your Body faced some similar criticisms to Bionic's lead single, Not Myself Tonight, the sexual content. Now, there is nothing wrong with having sexual or sensual tracks. Being of that nature doesn't inherently debase your talent or your capability, but when it isn't well received the first time, it may be wise to not do it again. With Christina boasting about Lotus being reflective and authentic and honest, Your Body was not the single to reflect this at all. Thus, people may have thought she was misleading them with her claims about Lotus. Additionally, the release of Just a Fool, okay, it probably wasn't smart to push a track that entered the Hot 100 at 92 to be a full-fledged single. Though I do understand seeing the potential in the track, but it did not pan out one bit. With there being no tour to support Lotus, well, the record was dead upon arrival. But you're not going to tour a record with the numbers it pulled in, or aren't you? Plenty of artists tour records that may not meet expectations. Some opt for smaller venues, and my mind instantly goes to Kesha on her Rainbow Tour. Though critically praised and debuting with numbers in between Animal and Warrior, Kesha was smart and opted to tour smaller venues knowing they could sell out, as opposed to larger venues she wouldn't be able to fill since it had been so long since she released music. Then there's Katy Perry, who toured her Witness record at larger venues. Though pulling in numbers close to Teenage Dream, Witness wasn't well received, thus the tour didn't sell out a heap of shows. So here, you see there are two different options, and two different scenarios when it comes to touring a record that hasn't exactly fared well for one reason or another, whether it be time or its reception. Why do you think Christina didn't tour Lotus? She could have gone on a small venue tour. Do you think she just didn't want to do it and wanted to focus on the voice? Or do you think she just didn't want to resort to small venues? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And there you have it. This is what happened to Christina Aguilera's Lotus. But let me say this. Christina is an artist many of us grew up with. She's raked in #1 singles, Grammy Awards, is one of the best-selling musical artists of all time, and Stripped is one of the best-selling records of the 21st century. This video is not meant to debase any of the incredible work Christina has put into her iconic career, but to try and figure out why most of her recent efforts haven't fared well as her previous ones. But as we know, time goes on, new artists emerge, and it can be difficult for some artists to maintain an extreme relevance in an insanely competitive market. And unfortunately, it's harder for female artists, especially as they get older. Christina, as of recently, has wrapped up the X Tour, her second tour to support her 8th record, Liberation. She additionally still has shows planned for the Experience Las Vegas residency in November, but if those will happen, who knows with the current pandemic? I'm gonna bet on no. But looking at the percentage of attendance, Christina can still pull in a modest audience. So with that, what do you think is next for Christina in her music career? And what do you think she should do for her next record? Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell for more future content on all your favorite pop stars.